Yeah, that's all about me. Could you please let me know about your uh, experiences or about your studies, like what basics you already know? So one by one, please introduce yourself with the things because I just wanted to know like you are aware with few of the things.
Okay, myself Sheetal Mandhane, and I have 5.5 years of teaching experience. And 3 months before, I have changed my career path and I should move into the IT field. And currently, I'm working with one small scale company. Which is located in the Hadapsar as a full stack developer, but my like training period is going on. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is completed. Now React will start from next week. That's
Oh,
it.
great. So yeah, you are aware about basic JavaScript, CSS, and HTML.
Yes, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I know.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Yeah, Ruchi.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, my name is Ruchita, and
Mhm.
I'm a student. I just completed my master's degree
Okay.
uh, from e-commerce. I have the subjects of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, the basics.
Mhm.
So I just shifted to React now.
Okay, fine. So you are aware with the basic syntaxes of CSS, HTML, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, that's fine because that's the prerequisite, and even if somebody don't know, then also we are fine because we can provide some references where you can go through if you are not aware. Yeah,
Yes.
Anukrati.
Hi, this is Anukriti. I'm changing fields from journalism and communication. I've also done the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript classes with 3RI. So, yeah,
Okay,
just on React now.
okay, okay, then fine. Okay, then I think we all are on track, and fine. I don't know like you guys were there in our previous demo, but yeah, that's fine because in that what we covered about the basics like what we are going to have in our React sessions and all. So before exactly starting to the React, I just want to know like are you guys aware about have you guys aware with the word ES6 or ECMAScript 15? Have you like heard this word like previously?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, fine. So basically ES6 is the major revision of JavaScript. Before that, we generally call JavaScript as that vanilla JavaScript. And then ES6 came, and another name of ES6 was ECMAScript 2015. So it was basically a major revision, and after that ES7, I think after ES7 there was one more version came, but ES6 was the major revision. So before start on any framework like Angular, on even React and even Vue.js, we should know about basics of the ES6. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about the basics of ES6 because ES6 also having so many features. But what are the minimum things that we can discuss, or we'll do some practical things as well. So I will be sharing my screen and uh, showing the basics usage of these things, right? So what I'm just sharing my screen. Yeah. Okay. 1 second, guys. I think I need to rejoin. Maybe. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this slide is visible to you, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So, so before we start on React, we should know because we all know the basics of JavaScript as well. So I think we are good to start with like these ES6 fundamentals. So I'm moving to another slide. In that, basically, if you guys are aware with the basic HTML tags and their attributes, right? And as attributes are the properties that we define in any HTML tag. So if we know then that we are good. And basic CSS and CSS like selectors, like uh, selectors like accessing the elements with the class names and applying classes using IDs and tag names using classes. So these are the things: how to create layout, divs, and different kind of layouts, basic cosmetic changes. If we know these things in CSS, then we are good. And basic JavaScript like DOM manipulations, events, form validations, like basic JavaScript thing where we just use document dot get element by ID, and basic things where we can access the DOM elements using various functions already there. So if we are good, then I think we all are good here. So we can start with ES6 things. Okay. So even for ES6, these HTML and CSS is not required, but for React, it will be required. So uh, let me start with the lat and const. So these lat and const are basically are the keywords that allow us to declare a variable using block scope, right? So previously, like as we all know in JavaScript, we were using var keyword. Now, what happens is var keyword is not that much of memory efficient. That is why we started the lat and const introduced in ES6. Okay, so this means like block scope means like the variable that is defined in a particular block will be accessible in that block only. Otherwise, it will automatically be garbage collected. Garbage collected means it will be disposed, like use and throw kind of scenario will be there. So if we go with an example, if we see example of block scope, then here it is simply we defined a variable lat name equals to g. Okay, then there is some block means like the brackets start and bracket close, the relevant. So the relevant bracket is start here, and like for this start, this is the closing. There may be nested blocks as well, like if we go and something like this, that can also be there. So that will be again, this will be again a separate block, but inside this block. Okay, so these things are a block scope. So now here you can see the same name we have took, lat name equals to Ravi. So if we try to access this variable name inside the block, then it will prompt us the block level value. Okay, so here it will be Ravi. And if we see outside of the block, if we try to console even after this assignment, then also we see it will not going to access this value because that value was used, created and disposed after this bracket close. So after this block we will not be able to access the value Ravi, but the value previously was there in Jeet outer of the scope. So in this scope, if we see console.name, it will print Jeet. So we can try this thing in our. So what I have in a real example as well, like what I have done is I have opened this JS Fiddle. This is like online JavaScript compiler. So here we can see. Okay, one second. I need to change these codes because this game's different from PPT. Okay, so we can hit and try. So the main thing is if we want to learn anything, then definitely we need to do hit and trials and many things. Sometimes we have some concept, but we have some confusion. So we should try these things. So this website is very good. We can check it here. Okay. So now if we run, so let's remove this one, and if we run this, so we can see in the console what it is printing. It is printing G, right? And suppose if we did that, okay, so inside this first console it will print Ravi, and then second console it will print G. So here we can see Ravi and Jeet. So this is providing a block level of access here. So if we talk about the const, so const are basically refer constants. Okay, and if we talk about the const, so const, this is also we can do the same thing. So it will also print same Ravi and Jeet. If you see, let's clear and run again. Ravi and Jeet, you can see. Now the question comes in our mind, like, why, if lat and const are doing same thing, then what's the difference between both of them? Why this const is there if they are doing the same job? No, so there is a very simple minor change between both of them, because const is always used to define constants. Constant means the value that never change, right? But here what we are saying, the value is changing. We have created this and value we are changing. So even this variable is totally different from this, because this is block scope. But if we try to create a const name in the same scope, okay, then okay, now it will show a error because this editor itself showing error. But if we go and run this application, then you can see uncode syntax error, identifier name has already declared. It means this name is already been there. Even this will be the case of, if we remove this, even with the lat also this will be the case, because this lat and const, both of them don't allow the redeclaration of variable. But in case of var it was there. So if we compare with the var, then we can do that. You are not able to see, okay, and you can see the even we can redefine or redeclare the variable. So that's why lat and const come, because it prevents user to not to redeclare the variable, and additionally they provide a block level of accessibility. So now if coming back to const, okay, another thing, till now lat and const are same, okay, but if we see, now we can't reassign the value in const. But if we go with the lat, suppose lat name Jeet is there, but in our logic there is some condition. We just need to change the name in the same variable. Like previously the name was Jeet, but now after that I got to know, okay, no, that person name was not Jeet, that person name was Naveen. So in the lat case, in the lat variables we can update the name. So if we see, we can do the thing. But if we took the const, means constant, we already know that is fixed, we know the particular name, and that is not going to be changed, then in that case we always should use the variable names const. Okay, now we can't update the thing. So here it's not redeclaration, it's a reassignment of value. So const name equals to G. Now name equals to Naveen. We can't update the name in case of const. So that's the basic difference between let and const. Everything else is exactly same. Okay. So any queries still so far? Lat and const.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, then fine. Great. So if you have any queries, then you can let me know, because sometimes like I am explaining something, maybe I am explaining with a different way. If you have any queries, like what will happen if we define here lat and again same name const, so you can ask these things. If this kind of curiosity will be there, then you will find, because now you see the lat is already there with the name variable, but still we can't redeclare with the same name, because name is same, and name uh, the key that is already been presented in the memory for the name. So if we want to take something there, we need to update is name one or name two or any other variable name, because same variable is already present in the memory, so we can't redeclare that. Even it was with lat and this was with const, they both are same, but Only one difference is there. In const, we can't reassign the value, and latter const case, redeclaration is not possible. Okay, so that's the thing. Okay, now moving to a lat and const. This is the example we already covered. So another important thing is JavaScript arrow functions. Okay, so I think you guys have already seen in our modern JavaScript. If you have seen any example of React component, generally we are using arrow functions. Okay, so why these functions came into the picture? So first thing that adds a syntactical sugar in our programs, like in our functions. So syntactical sugar means it provides a shorthand syntax. Okay, so we'll be covering this in like this JS Fiddle as well. And another thing is it automatically it does a scope binding. Okay, so scope binding means it automatically binds itself with the parent scope. Okay, like suppose if we define a function in JavaScript class, if that is a regular function, then definitely we need to bind the scope with that function, because that function don't have any scope. But in case of arrow functions, it will automatically binds with the class, so we don't need to bind it again. So I will be showing you example of binding in our React sessions, not in this session, because scope binding is the thing that we'll need to know when we will working on the class based components. In that case we will be covering but now right now you can understand, like it is providing a syntactical sugar and shorthand syntax. That is why we use arrow functions. But yeah, definitely that is not the major advantage. The major advantage is automatic scope binding. It automatically binds with the parent scope. That's the another thing. But yeah, we'll be covering that in our React sessions, right? So going look, what this function is doing, this is a regular function. Okay, so this function is basically a multiplication function that is receiving x and y and returning x into y. So this is a simple regular function that generally we do in, so going copying that code. Okay, so this function receiving two arguments x and y and returning, this is a regular vanilla JavaScript code. Okay, and if we want to multiply, for example, if we want to multiply this 5 and 6 and putting that thing in console, whatever result is returning, we'll just printing it in our console, clearing the previous console and running it. So now you can see 5 into 6, this function is returning something. 5 into 6, that is 30, we have printed. So this is the regular vanilla JavaScript way to do this. And if we want to convert the same function in our arrow function, then what we can do in that case? So let's convert it without copying it. So what we'll do, we'll define a const multiply equals to whatever arguments we are receiving and this. So this will also do the same thing. If we see 30 is the output. Okay, now we can do one more thing. If there is a single line in the function, if there is a single line, then we don't need return statement. Okay, if we remove this, then definitely it will not return anything. See, undefined it is returning. Why it is not returning? Because we have used curly brackets. Suppose if there are multiple lines, then why we use curly brackets? To create a block. But if there is only single line, then what's the need of creating a block? And if we are not creating any block, then we don't need return statement as well in arrow function. So if we write something like this, so now you can see how many lines, 2-3 lines we have saved. This is the same that we were doing. Now it will return 30. So it means if your function is having single line, then we don't need curly bracket and we don't need return statement. Yeah, definitely if there are multiple lines, then there is no other option. We always need to do curly brackets. And if we are doing curly brackets, then there is a global rule. If we are using curly brackets and we want to return, then we need to use return statement. Otherwise it will not return anything. How it will know which line needs to be returned? Because there are multiple lines. Suppose xyz calculation is here and then another calculation is here. Okay, now how our code will know like what exactly needs to return, right? So that is why return statement is mandatory in case of multiple lines or block based. Even if it is not mandatory to use single this without return statement or single line. If we are not comfortable, then definitely we can with single line also we can use return statement. But if we are using curly brackets, whether it is single line or multiple line, we always need to use return statement. Otherwise your function won't be returning anything, and if you are printing that, then you will be getting an undefined value. Okay, so that's the reason. But it as it like as we can see, it is having only single line, so we don't need curly brackets and we don't need return statement. So that is why we say it adds syntactical sugar, right? Now what happens in case of if parameters are not required, if nothing is there? So in that case, suppose get pi value. Okay, this is your function name. It won't need any because we already know what it should return. Suppose I am not exactly knowing this is the pi value, but we are assuming this is the pi value and we want to get it. So what we will do is we don't need any argument and we can directly do, if they don't have any argument, then definitely do something like this: get pi value, calling the get pi value, or this one 3.68. Okay, and if it is receiving anything, any variable, suppose it is receiving only one variable. Okay, so variable name is something a. Okay, and if we call this, then I think it is still returning something. And if we okay, so okay, what we can do is get pi square value, get pi value, and if we are sending here, then we just need to multiply with that. So we are multiplying with a. Okay, if we pass 2, so what it will do is it will receive this variable, multiply into 3 into 6 8 and return it. So let's check 7.36. Okay, now in this case, if it is having only single variable, then we don't need these small bracket as well. So that is why the major advantage is scope binding, and the secondary advantage of using arrow function is it adds a syntactical sugar. It means it provides so many sorted techniques so that we can save number of characters or number of lines of code in our programs. Okay, but that's not the major advantage, because in your interviews many people or interviewer may ask like, okay, what are the major advantage of using arrow functions? So you should not be saying it adds syntactical sugar. You should be saying something like it provides automatic scope binding with the parent scope. Also, it adds a syntactical sugar in our program. It saves so many lines of code by providing shorthand techniques. Okay, so here if it is a single variable, if it is single parameter, then we can write something like this as well. So you can see. So if we need to write regular function, it is only one line of code. Regular function will still take 2-3 lines of code for the same thing. So that's why we use arrow functions in our React components and all. So but yeah, definitely if there are multiple arguments, like suppose 2 and 3, like we were doing in multiply, then there is no option, we always need to use these small brackets in that case. Otherwise your code will return some syntax error. This is a syntax error actually, because it is not knowing, okay, it is having 2 parameters or 1, but in case of 1 parameter there is no comma required, so it automatically assume, okay, this is having 1 parameter, so parenthesis is not required. And in case if you added that, then also there is no issues. This is also fine. And but yeah, if there is a single parameter, then we can skip that thing. And after this, we are not using the curly brackets or block, then we don't need return statement. And if code is single line, then we don't need these parentheses. Okay. Yeah, but if we put, then also there is no issues. If we want to put and write something like this, like suppose here if we want to write something like this and we are not comfortable, but we can return, oh sorry, spelling mistake. Yeah, so this is also completely fine. This will also produce the same output. But yeah, there will be no sense. In that case, what we can do is we can write a regular function, something like this. Now, okay, this is, so this is also same thing. But we should not be using like if we are using arrow function, then if it is having less line or single line, then we should not be using parentheses and single parameter. We should not be using small things. Otherwise, there will no use of doing this. It will be same as regular functions if we write lots of lines. Okay, so this is all about the arrow functions. For now I think uh, we are good with this thing, and this thing is pending, I know, but definitely if we'll have the scenario like when we create the components and all, that time I will be able to show you like how to bind with the current scope or current class. Okay, so that definitely we will be covering up in our further sessions. And yeah, any queries till so far?
No, sir.
Okay, great. So fine. Okay, now the main concept comes classes, right? So in classes, so like, do you guys understand what are the classes? Why do we use them? Any of you?
For reusability of the functions or reusability of the code.
Yes, definitely. So class is basically it is basically represent the JavaScript objects. And suppose it you want to classify something. Suppose lion is a class, right? And a particular lion, suppose a lion name is John, so that John is actually object of lion class, right? Suppose for another example, if you take, then vehicles are the broader category, so that is actually class vehicles. And if we talk about a particular bus, so bus can be a class, oh sorry, bus can be object of the class vehicles. So vehicles object is bus, and class is the category basically. So like we all are humans, so this is our class. But particular Jitendra, that is a object of human class, right? So and what does it mean? Object means it inherit the basic properties, like whatever things are there in human, that I already have. And if I have something my own, that also we can add, right? So these things are called classes. And in JavaScript ES6, before ES6 there were no concept called classes. So we were using constructor functions, right? So constructor function was the thing that we were using before the classes in JavaScript, in vanilla JavaScript. So let's see this syntax. This was actually a constructor function. Constructor function basically acting like a classes, but that was not actually a class. So here you can see function person is there. So the basic, if you want to create any class, the basic layman convention is you should always start the class name with capital letter. Okay, so here you can see the class name started with, because previously before classes JavaScript don't have the concept name class keyword was not there, so we were using function constructor functions. So this is also a very good example of using constructor function. Like what are the constructor functions? Sometimes interviewed ask, because ES6 later added into the JavaScript, but before that we were using constructor functions. So you should be knowing what is constructor functions. Constructor function is the alternative to the classes, because classes were not introduced in JavaScript before year 6. So we were using all these constructor functions that is exactly acting like a class. So here function person is there, and every class is having some properties. So this class is having some properties like name and age. So here we can define this dot name. Even we can have these things uh, through. Okay, let me take example. Like, let's do it example. I'm doing it more like you can say practically, because I don't want to share, and that's why my slides are too bad. And but yeah, these snippets I have tried to capture from various sources, and so that we can see like how it was actually before the classes and all. So let's see. Okay, we are not printing anything. That's why after running this program we are not getting anything in our console, because we are not printing. So if we go and check console.log, okay, and we want to print the name of this person dot name. So person dot name is printing John, because this person name is John, and age. Okay, so age is 23. But what's the use if we create this const person equals to new person? So this is called object creation, or we may call it object instantiation. We are creating an instance of this class. So how to create a instance? Using new keyword. So using this new keyword, then class name and this parenthesis. So this is actually treated as a function. We are calling this function actually that is actually a constructor function. Okay, construct why this is a constructor function? Because we are using this keyword and all. So this we are using it as an alternate of the class. That's why this is called constructor function. So we are creating a object of this person class, and we are referring here. So don't, we can write is object person or person object. So you will not be confused, because the person class name is also person, object name was also person, but that was a small name. But let's do it like this: person object dot age. Now running it, it is printing 23. Okay, now question comes, this is one object. If we do person object 2, okay, and we try to access person object age and person object 2 dot age, it is also printing 23, it is also printing 23. So then what's the use case of creating these classes? There is no use, because for every instance it is acting same. Then what's the use of creating this class? So this is not the ideal example. That's why I took this way. And in that case, what we can do is we can receive the name and age through the constructor function. So at the time of object creation, we can assign the values. So instead of assigning the values directly, we can receive these as in parameters and assign them. Okay, now you can see what this class is doing. Suppose this is the class, and we are not into ES6. We don't know the ES6 still so far. So this is the way to create a class. Person, name and age we are receiving, and what we are doing, this dot name. Now what this is, this represent to this person class. Okay, so this dot name equals to this name whatever we are sending, and this dot age equals to the age we are receiving here. Okay, now once we create an instance, we need to pass the information. So now you can see Ravi and age is 25, and here in another instance Jitendra, age is 35. Okay, now you can see, okay, this should be the number 35. Now you can see this object will have different values and this object will have different values, because whatever we are sending from here, okay, it will go and assign to this dot name and this dot age. Now you can see the difference, person dot age and person dot age. What it is printing? It is printing 25 and 35, because this object was different, this object was different. Okay, but class was same, and that is why the use case comes. The code is now, this is the actual purpose of making a class. Code is same, but at the time of instantiation we are passing different values, and for different objects it is holding different values. That's what the basic use of any class in any language. Syntax may be differ in the different languages, but this is the basic use case. Okay. So now if we move to another slide, so this is the classes. Now exactly the class came into a picture. So the same thing if you want to convert in the class. So I'm not taking this example. What I'm doing is just create same thing. Okay. So syntax is class keyword, then person, then now this is not a function actually. This is a keyword and this is the keyword, and this we need to make as a statement. Now in this body, this is called class body. This whole whatever comes under the curly bracket of the class name, it will come in under the class body. Okay, so here we need to take a constructor. So constructor function, this is the special function in every class that is basically responsible for initializing some variables or some member variables at the time of object creation, right? So here you can see in this previous example, this whenever we do use new means a new instance of this class. Why we use this new keyword? Because it will always return a new instance of this class. So this is the standard way of creating any object for any class. So here this person itself was a constructor function, that is why we call this constructor functions. And if the same thing we want to convert in the class, but we don't have the constructor here, how to pass the things? Now you can see this is saying is already been declared. So what we can make a class vehicle. Okay, vehicle and constructor. Here what we will do, this dot type equals to bus. Okay, and this is the basic syntax of creating any class. Now const vehicle1 equals to new, to create a new instance of what's your class name, vehicle. I don't know the spelling is correct or not. Okay, this is the class vehicle. Now what will happen? And let's print type of the vehicle one, console.log, oh sorry, weh1. Go and run it. Okay, multiple closing. Now you can see, oh, this is actually we have printed vehicle, the whole object. Okay, but we are not going to print the whole object. We just want a type of this vehicle. So this vehicle type is bus. Okay, now we want to use vehicle class, and this is vehicle 2. And again, if we want to check vehicle 2's type, what will be the type? Tell me. Guys,
Bus.
okay,
Bus.
great. So in both the cases it will be bus. So but we don't want this because in this case there is no such purpose, like there is no such purpose to create each vehicle type of bus, right? So we want different vehicle types. Now suggest me anyone, like what I need to do, like we did here something, right, to receive some parameters at the time of object creation. So what I need to do here?
We need to pass the value into the constructor.
Okay, we need to receive something in the
Yeah.
constructor. Okay, something like this type or vehicle type, anything you can take. Okay, it's not like this dot type is here, so we need to take always type. So you can take anything and always try to do such things. Okay, and instead of static value, what we'll do, we'll pass this type. Okay, and here at the time of object creation, what we need to do is to pass. So bus and here car. Now if you run the program, you will see bus and bus. Oh, sorry. Why it is printing bus and bus? Because I have printed vehicle 1 dot type and vehicle 1 dot type. Now both the types will be C, bus and car. Running it again, bus and car. Fine. So you understand the basic use case of using classes, and this is also same thing and this is also same thing, but this is the new syntax. Everybody who was familiar with the basic class based syntax, okay, because in .NET, Java, PHP, every programming language was having classes. Okay, but JavaScript was not having classes, it was having a constructor function feature. Same thing, but now as everybody is more familiar with classes and inheritance and many things in classes are simple, like syntax is very simple in class, that's why we use class based function. Right now we are not able to see, right now this class syntax is more simple in terms of looking it into it, right? Because here we need to class and we need to create the constructor function and all. But in like longer perspective we see, then definitely there are many features like extending, inheritance, and many things. Classes are more approachable, more simple, more neat and clean. That's why we use classes. Okay, so ES6 came into the picture and took this thing into the scenario. Like you can create classes instead of constructor function. Proper classes are there. This syntax is there. Internally, anyhow, it uses the same thing. Internally, it uses the same thing, but we can write easy and neat and clean code. Guys, 1 second. I'm having some call, so just. Okay, guys, sorry. Okay, fine. So I think classes are fine. Any queries?
Sir, I have one question. Can we use another name instead of constructor here, or is it compulsory to use a constructor?
Yeah, it is compulsory to use constructor because another function definitely you can create, like add, multiply, or any function you can create here, but it will not be, they'll not know. Okay, so I'm removing this one. This is great question actually. Okay, but this constructor function is a part of syntax. Okay, if you want something like this, okay, and same thing is there, we are doing this, then go, you will get undefined. Why you are getting undefined? Because at the time of object creation, it will look for constructor function. If it is not there, then no error will be there, but it will look for constructor name. Okay, some function is there with the name constructor. If it is there, then execute that at the time of creating any instance. Okay, and now as we have already named it constructor 2, then this new keyword with vehicle, it will go and search constructor function is there. If it is not there, then there is no sense to pass these values or not, because this is not going to be execute. Okay,
Okay.
so yeah, that's the part of syntax. If we want to initialize something, then we always need to take a constructor name. Like as in PHP also, I think something like this we need to do something like this. I'm not remembering the exact syntax, but yeah, these are this is the part of syntax. We always need to take the constructor function. Then only this initialization or this code execution will happen at the time of this instantiation. Okay, so yeah, and that is all about classes. Okay, and we can elaborate more because we are going to have classes in our components, because I think you all are aware about everything in React are achieved by the components, class based or functional component. Nowadays, functional components are more useful because they are very simple to write. We don't need to create classes and all. But class based components are also required in some specific cases, and we should be knowing that. Okay, so yeah, that's all about classes. We will be covering more about classes in our React sessions. Okay, like how to inherit and all. And even it's not the ES6 last class. There may be some extended class where we can discuss the extend how to be extend the class based syntax and all, right? Like not about the syntax, inheritance, how to do inheritance, and child class, parent class, property methods, property things. So yeah, that's the good thing that we can cover in our next session. Now, okay, the classes are done. Any other query?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So default parameter values. Okay, so in ES6, like previously there was no such thing that we can pass the default parameters, right? In JavaScript, it will be treated undefined. But after ES6, what happens is, okay, let's do some exercise. So here we have created a function sum. X is there, y is there, and y value, default value is 5. Why this is being passed? Okay, now let's understand. And always try to create arrow functions instead of regular functions, because regular functions we can create. So what we will do is const sum equals to function, oh not function, sorry, const sum equals to, even this sum is not required. There are two parameters, so we'll need to use parenthesis, then single line statement is there, then we don't need to return anything. Okay, so what it is doing, it is doing x plus y. So let's execute this. What may be the output? Tell me.
Error.
What?
So because we need to pass it to.
Yeah, that is there, but right now what we are doing, we just calling with the one parameter. So what should be the output?
Error.
5.
No,
Not a
5,
number.
not a number, yeah. Because this is the number, so x is 5, y is undefined, so x plus y will be 5 plus undefined, so it will not be a number. Okay, so if we, okay, now if we run this, it will be 13, right? So why it is 13? Because it is what we have tried to do is we have, but in some cases, suppose we don't want to pass, we don't know. So in that case, we want some default value, something like this. Okay, and it means whether we pass it or not. If we don't pass it, it will assume y will always be 5 and it will do a sum. Okay, and if we are passing here like something, if we are passing 9, so it what it will do is it will not consider this, because this y is, we are explicitly passing this, it means this will be treated as 9 only, it will not be 5. But in case of if we are not passing, then it will be treated as 5. So here you can see it will be 14. Okay, so that is why this is the new feature to in ES6, because previously there was no default value in parameters was not been there. Okay, so this is the case where we can pass a default value in parameters. So in this example also we are doing something like this: x and y is default value 5, x, if we are passing 5, then it will be treated as 5 plus 5 with single parameter, and 5 and 15, so 15, because y is already there, then it will not treat it as 5, it will be treated as 15, because that's the value that we are explicitly passed. Okay, so that's the feature from ES6. This is a simple feature. Whenever we need any variable, we are not sure value will be there or not, so like assign the value at the time of receiving the parameter. Okay, now JavaScript template literals. So this is the thing that I just want to know, do you guys understand how to concatenate, how to adjoin the two strings in JavaScript?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. With the
Okay.
sign of plus.
Using?
Using the sign of plus.
Okay.
But we can use template later.
You can, yeah, we can use template,
We
but
use
before
the
that,
function of concat also.
yeah, concat is basically used to joining the arrays, and I'm not sure that will work for string, but yeah, it may work for string as well.
Sir, we have also a function for string, concat function for string.
Okay, yeah, then we can use that, but in case of but there is a different use case of template literals, right? So suppose there is one string where str1 equals to my name is, okay, and where str2, okay, and if we are doing console.log str1 plus str2, so if we run this, my name is Jitendra. So this is how we do, and there are other multiple options that we can do. But suppose what if this variable is having something like this: my name is this and my age is something else. Okay, in that case, how we can insert this string at this place? This is too difficult, right? In that case, what we'll need to do? We'll need to break where str3, right? Any other option that we can do?
Sir, we can use backtick with dollar sign.
Yeah. That's what the template literal is. So I'm just making a point, like what's the use case of introducing that concept, right? So we want to insert the name here. Okay. So in regular case or concat or any string functions, what we need to do is we need to break down in multiple strings, where str3 equals to this and my age is something else. Okay, now we need to do something str1 plus str2 plus str3, something like this. Invalid token. Oh, okay. So now this is how it is doing. So we need to create some extra variables. We need to do more. And in case of these lines can't have multiple lines. These strings can't have multiple lines. Can you run it? It will not run because it will not have multiple lines. So always we need to use escape lines, escape sequence. Okay, so that's why this feature came into the picture, that is called template literal. So in that case, what we can do is we can make a single string using these backticks. Okay, and my name is, here something will come. Syntax of using any variable inside these template literal is dollar and curly brackets, and my hometown is, okay. So we already have this, and we have name, one variable where name equals to, okay. So we don't need these concatenation like this. Jitendra is not defined. Oh, sorry, I have put my name here instead of the variable name. Now you can see my name is Jitendra and my hometown is. So this is so smooth to doing string concatenation, and even if your line is multiple lines and paragraphs, then also there is no issues. Now you can see my name is Jitendra and my hometown KK is Jaipur, right? So you can easily do these things using template editors. So that's the main use case. This is simple feature, but this was required because it was too difficult to doing things like, suppose here it is joining the first name and last name and with the hello string. So hello, then space, first name plus space plus last name. So something like this you need to do. And if you want to do something in the same line, so hello, and this backtick start and backtick close will be there, and these are the literals like first name and last name. Here it is showing like it is too simple. This is also fine. I don't mind because 3 lines of code is here, 3 lines of code is here. But in a long term, you see there will be multiple use cases where multiple lines, paragraphs will be there. API response is coming in. Multiple big descriptions are coming. In that case, these template editors are too helpful, and it makes our job a little easy. Although we can do with these things as well, but definitely it will take some more time, more efforts. But using this we can simply doing multiple things. Like suppose we are creating a mail template, right, where a big mail template is there and there are few dynamic values inside the mail template. It will be too hard, it will be too difficult using a normal string concatenation, even using functions as well, and even using this plus operator as well. So definitely, this is the simple way that we can use for the longer, big description, big strings. Okay, yeah, that is all about the literals, template literals, and yeah, this is about the destructuring. So destructuring basically making our life easy when we assign the values to the new variables. So I have taken example because you will see in many of your React applications, or this will be widely used thing, destructuring. So this is basically, this feature also comes into ES6, came into the ES6. So here we can see there is an example. The person object is there. In this person object, name, age, and gender is there. Okay, Sarah, 25, and female. These are the in this object. These are 3 values. Okay, so if you go and see further, if you want to extract all of the information from the person class, what you need to do is, let's copy it and see this example. Okay, this is having 3 values and you want to extract these and you want to show name, person dot name, age and gender. Now you can simply print it. So what we need to do is we need to extract in previous like what we can say in vanilla JavaScript before ES6 we need to do something like this. This is so lengthy, right? So basically what we are doing is we are extracting 3 variables and 3 different names or 3 different lines. Okay, but what happens in ES6 destructuring feature, it provides a feasible way to do it, something like this. So I hope you have already seen this kind of structure where you can restructure these from the object. So what the syntax? Const, as this is a object, so what we need to do is we need to take an object. Okay, then from where we are retrieving values, from person object. Now from the person object we need to pass the exact key names. Suppose name, so it will create a variable with the name console.log. What it will do is it will extract, it will try to find this name key in this person object and destructure and assign the values whatever the person name is, it will assign to this name. Now you can see it is accessing the name Sarah in the same line if there are multiple keys. So using comma we can create. So actually it is saving your multiple lines of code. Sorry, age. Okay, so name and age. You can see Sarah 25. Okay, so it is actually saving your number of lines. Suppose you have 10 variables and you don't have destructuring feature, then you need to write 10 lines of code. Person dot name, person dot age, person dot gender, and blah blah. So actually this saves lots of lines. So we need to understand how to do destructuring. Simply put your object to the right side and left side, put curly bracket. But always seen if this is having curly brackets, then here it will, we need to define the curly brackets. What happens in case of array destructuring? Destructuring works for array and object both. I have picked only array object. Oh sorry, object type of variables. Now what happens if there is a, if there is a array values, then what will happen? In that case, in that case we need to destructure in a different way. Suppose a fruits, there is an array named fruits. So I have picked the object only apple. So making a array destructuring example here: apple, mango, and banana. Okay, these are the 3 fruits. Now if we want to extract the values, so remember in case of object we always need to take the same keys, but in case of, let's see what will happen with this undefined and undefined. And if we do something like this, fruit 1, fruit 2, f1 and f2, apple and mango, you can see with the index. Actually tried, we are not make, because it doesn't have any key name. Arrays doesn't have any key name, it is having directly values, right? But we are not going to write the value names here because we don't know. Whatever value can be there based on the key, we know, because in objects there is a particular shape, like name is there, age is there, Okay, gender is there, so we always need to take the keys in case of object destructuring. But in case of array destructuring, there is no such key, value can be anything. So what we can do is we can do anything, apple, mango, we can take like this as well, but it is not, there is no restriction of taking any name, we can take any name according to the serial, like whatever it is. Okay, suppose we take is mango, and we take apple, and we take pineapple. Now you guys tell me what will come in pineapple.
Banana.
Yes. So it basically fetches from the indexes. The first index, it will fetch the first value. And pineapple, it is on second index. Actually, index start with 0. I hope you already know this thing in arrays. 0, 1 and 2. So pineapple will try to fetch the value of 2 index. So 2 index is having value banana. So we can see apple, mango, or banana. No matter what name you picking, whether it is relevant to your variable's value or not, but yeah, definitely these values are dynamic, we never know these values are like what may be in the value, so we should take something like this, fruit 1, fruit 2, but it depends on us what kind of logic we want to receive. Okay, so it will always fetch this apple because, oh sorry, fruit 1, yeah. So it will always fetch apple because that's on first index. It is not mandatory to fetch all the values even in object, even in arrays. So this is how we do array destructuring, right? So destructuring is going to use across all the components. This will save lots of lines, lots of code. Like definitely if multiple lines of codes are there, then compiler will take more time. Even though you can't measure this time, there is no such difference you can see with multiple line and single line. But when you write tons of code, tons of lines in multiple files, in that case, you will see the differences of using these minor things, minor techniques, right? So that's the thing that we should always be considered using destructuring to reduce number of lines. Okay, destructuring. And any queries in destructuring?
No, sir.
No. Great. So JavaScript import and export. So previously in JavaScript, there is no such importing and exporting feature was there. So we always need to use a common JS or require JS. There was a third party that always needs to be plugged if we want to export any function and import in any file. But what happens in ES6, you are easily export any functions from any file and import that function. Like definitely if we are exporting something, then only we can import, right? If we are exporting wheat from India, then only US can import wheat from India, right? So that's the thing was not there in before ES6. So ES6 came into the picture that natively added this feature into JavaScript. Yeah, it was possible import and export before Java before ES6 as well, but using third-party modules like CommonJS and require.js. But now natively we have the import and export feature because all our latest browser also understand this ES6 feature because it came in 2015 itself, but it was a complete revamp of JavaScript. It added so many things in JavaScript, but these are the common things that is always being used in your React component. That's why I took these to these are I'm treating these as fundamentals. This should be knowing, although these are very simple things. Okay, so I have created one example where two JavaScript files are there, like contact.js and home.js. Okay, so these two files are there. We'll see like how we are exporting from one file and importing in another file. So this is an export example. Okay, so we have created one file contact.js, and what we want to do, you can export the contact function. Okay, So here this is a function contact. As of now, just ignore these things. Function contact is there. That function is receiving name and age, and it is returning something. It is printing something. The name is name and age is age. Okay, this is again we are using template literal here. These are the literals. Okay, inside this particular template, string template. Okay, now you see this two things are added additional. Export statement is there and default is there. I will be letting you know default and export, when to use default and when not to use default. Okay, so this is an export example. Let's take it, and what we can do is, okay, JS fiddle. Here we can't create multiple files, I think. So what we can do is code sandbox JavaScript. I'm not taking a React. I'm just taking one. Okay, this is index.js. Okay, and so what we have done is we have created a function contact name age and one file. And if we save this contact.js, why it is not? Okay, so this is actually contact.js. Let's break it down so that we can see the whole code. Now we are not creating a home.js. What we have done is we have created a function that will receive name and age, and that will simply print something. Fine. Now if we have exported this thing, then we need to import as well, right? If we want to use that. So this is a kind of module we have created, contact module or contact function, that we have already exported. And now if we want to import this, so what we can do is something like this. So in our index.js, so they have created, in this example we have created this home.js and home.js. Instead of home.js, what we are doing is we already have index.js. What we will try to do, first we'll import this. So home, oh sorry, contact.js. Okay, and inside the contact it was asking two things, name and age. So instead of, okay, if we run this, then we can see the name is Sarah and age is 25. So this is how we do import, okay, and export. Now coming back to my point that I've already raised, that is why should we use default and when we should not be use default. Suppose this is the contact.js file and this is having one function contact, and if you want to create another function as well, then because it is same name, so I am taking contact2. Still it is throwing error. What it is saying, identifier contact has already been declared. So it was the previous thing, then I renamed it with contact2. Then what syntax are coming? Only one default export allowed per module. So this file is treated as a module, and inside one file there may be one default function. There may be one default function, one default export. So in a file, there is a rule in a file. If you are exporting something, then default export should be only once. If we remove this, it will be fine, it will completely fine. So if we see, contact is also there and contact2 is also there. There are two functions, but default can be used only once in a file. In a single file, default export default can be used only once. Now it will run, there will be no issues. Name is Sarah, age is 25. Okay. Now what's the, how can we import the, suppose if we have this default export, then we can directly import as a main object, right? But what if we want to import something that is already there, like something, so contact2 is there. So what we want to do is, we don't want to call, okay, let's, this is another function. We are just changing the body so we can see the difference, but we want to call this function contact2, not this one, because this is default export. So it will be contact dot contact2. Okay, got it. If we try to do something like this, okay, now what will be the option, what will be the answer, what should be, what it should print? It is again printing the name is Sarah, even we named it contact2 or contact. Now suppose what, there is no function called contact is there, contact2 is there, contact3 is not there, right? If we write contact3 here, what will happen? Again it is running. We have exported contact, but what it is it, we can import anything. Yes, anything, because this is default export. Default export can be imported with any name. That's the rule. Because default export is there, that can be imported with any name. Now you can see my name is Jeet and age is 25. I have import anything. So it may be anything, like if your function is default exported from any file, you can import it with any name. There is no restriction on that. But if you exported normal export, this is a regular export, okay? So suppose let's make this name only, okay? This function is will receive name, this is, and this function will have age. Okay, we can try to get some real name, get age, okay, it will receive age only. This is name function and age is not there, so it is fine. This is age function and name is not there, so this is fine. So get age and get name is there, but can we, because these are also exported, but these are not default exported, because default export is allowed only one in a file. Now how to import the functions that are default exported, that are not default exported, like regular export, we generally say them regular export. Get age and get name. Now you can see default export can be import without parenthesis, but regular export will require parenthesis. Okay. So here if you want to call get age get name Ravi and get age Ravi instead of Ravi for 34. Now you can see first function anything is called, anything was the default export, that's why we imported with any name. But these can't be imported with any name. These should be, if suppose if we want to get name using get name 2, and if we call the get name 2, it will say content.getName2 is not a function. In this file there is no function that is named getName2, because regular export can be export with the same name, but default export can be import with any name and it doesn't require the curly brackets. So that's all about the import and export thing. Any queries? I hope I am able to make this more clear. That's why I gave this example with the default and without default. Hello.
Got it, sir.
Okay, okay. If it is clear, then this is also like what I have done is in these slides, I have tried to cover the most thing, because definitely like few methods are already there in ES6 that is added into the array, right? Few methods are already there that is came into the picture in ES6 for strings. But why I am not covering this, because whenever you do regular programming doing React project, in that case you will be doing googling and you will be finding okay this is the thing, but these are the basic things that introduces and that is being used if very frequent, and you don't need to you can't skip these things. These will be there because in your component the import and export is a feature that is always be needed if you are making component, because definitely why these component breakdown is there in React, because you can create multiple files, you can reuse the components at many places. That's why import and export statement are very important in your React project. Okay. So this is what the rules are about the default export, regular export, how to import them, and can we rename them? Then question comes, we can rename this default export with any name, but we can't do that. There are multiple options. We can do these as well, but where we need to do explicit renaming. Like suppose we want to call it here get name 2 only, okay, and here it is get name only, then what's the difference? Like how can we do that? Get name as we can do aliasing get name 2. Now it will not have any, so this is the name function Ravi. So we are calling get name, but we need to do explicit aliasing. We can't directly import them with a different name. We need to give a alias. This is the get name function only, but we have just given one alias as well, alias. But now if we try to get name only, now you will not do, because we have already aliased it. We are already rename it at the time of import only. So now you will see get name will not be found in this file. In this file get name is there because at the time of import we given a alias name. So we need to do explicit aliasing if we want to rename our functions at the time of import. Okay, in case of regular exports, and here we are not doing any aliasing. We can do whatever we want, whatever name we want to give we can do. But if in case of regular imports, we need to do explicit aliasing. That's it all about import and export statements. Okay, guys, there are import is there. There are two more minor things are there. If we are okay, then we can continue, and otherwise we are good. Let me know like if you are interested. Then there are two slides. Well, we can.
Yeah, continue.
Yes.
Fine. So fine. So JavaScript REST parameter is there. I hope you already seen these parameters. Okay. So REST parameter are basically to use, suppose sometimes we don't know like how many number of parameters that can be sent. Like we were seeing that example X and Y, right? Okay, so let's do it practically so that it will be more clear. Show A, B, and this is actually REST parameters. Like A is there, B is there, and whatever comes after A and B, assign all these items in this args, okay, arguments or params or anything. You can take any name, REST, okay. Now, whatever we'll assign from here, so console.name this and this. Show function is there, 1 2 and okay, now tell me what will be the output of this if I execute this code, what it should print in console.
A1 2
1 and 2, right? But it is saying something, this is not defined because we have already tried to print this as well, but the variable name was different, so let's make it same. Now you can see 1 2 and array, because for this function it is thinking one and like two values will always be there, then whatever comes put all the values in an array. Suppose we put 4 5 6 7, so this is a kind of sometimes we do dynamic programming and all, so we don't know like how many parameters may come, right? So that time what it will do is it will assign the initial two values to these two variables, and all whatever it is 4 5 6 10, how many numbers are there, assign them in this single variable. But how a single variable can hold multiple values? Using arrays, right? So this variable, whatever name we will give, this variable will hold whatever values after these two variables. Simply, that is it is so simple. So 1 and 2 will come as direct values, and 4 5 6 7 will come as a value as an array. So this will be a single variable, but how it will hold multiple values? It needs to be an array by default. That's why internally ES6 created this value as an array. If we don't pass anything, then also it will treat it as array, because blank array is there but no value was there, so it will always be blank array. Fine. So this is called REST parameters. Now let's take an example. This is a dummy example. There is no sense to doing this. Suppose we want to add a list sum. Okay, A and B. It will simply, suppose REST is not there, and console.log A plus B. What it will print? 3. Oh, sorry. We have changed the function name. What it will print? 3, right? Because it is just simply adding. But we have a list coming from the API. We don't know whether this will be 2 variable, this will be 1 variable, this will be 6 variable. How we can do that? So we know first value will be 0 or anything. So let's take an example 0. And there is some list coming from the API, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So what we'll do, we'll take initial and rest or rest all values. Okay, so let's see what it will be there. Initial, it will be getting this first value, that is 0, that we already know, but we don't know the other values. Initial is 0 and rest all values will be this thing. Now what we need to do is we just need to plus or sum all these values. These values are coming from somewhere that we don't know how many values it may come. That's why we make our function